Hey everyone, welcome back to the Listen for Real podcast. I am so happy you're here. I'm Jennifer Brown and I am with a great friend, Kim Stevens, today. You know what? We're going to be talking about a number of things. This is how it works. When I talk with Kim, we kind of cover the whole gamut of everything you've ever wanted to figure out or discuss. I mean, we've covered it from gender to sexuality to sensitivity to being an empath to, oh my gosh, I think we've covered a million things. Mm-hmm. And today I asked her to come because how do she and I differ? Well, because that's my MO is I need to bring someone who differs from me in their lived experience and their opinions and the way they've formulated their approach to life needs to be different from mine in some way, because it's the only way I grow and learn and expand my paradigm, right? And shift it. Mm-hmm. And so I asked Kim because she is a very sensitive human being. And I would say I'd go so far, and she's going to correct me when we come back, but I would go so far to say is she is one of those people who I am intrigued by how connected she is somatically or physically to her body, but also spiritually. There's a lot to this person that is Kim. And for me, that sensitivity, that being in tune with oneself is completely foreign territory. I would say I am just learning to understand that there are three parts to me: body, soul, and mind. But let me tell you something. My mind has run a totalitarian regime and has silenced my body and my soul for nearly 50 years. Yeah. I'm a 50-year-old woman. So I asked him in because we're going to just dissect this. And I hope you all relate and just find something here that you go, oh, I had not thought about that. Or, oh, this might pique your interest to realize there's aspects of this to you as well. So we'll be right back and you will hear this beautiful episode with my dear friend, Kim Stevens. We did it. We're here. Hi, Kim.
Hi, Jen. Hi, everyone. I'm so happy to be here. It's such an honor.
Thank you guys. For having me. I'm looking across at my friend here and just, she's a new friend for me in that we've come to know each other last year or so.
Yeah.
But she's one of these souls that I feel like, oh my gosh, let me travel this life forever with this soul at my side. She's just this friend and sister that I adore. And I learn so much every time you share something or tell a story. I just always learn something and go, oh my gosh. And then fun fact, we realized we went to the same high school. Now
oh my gosh, I forgot about that.
I forgot about that too. We went to the same high school, but many years apart, because I think we have a pretty significant age gap. I think.
I'm 32.
Oh my gosh, I'm 50. Okay. I could literally be your mom, but no, your older sister. No, not even that. We're like dear friends because honestly, you have an older soul than me and you're far wiser. Let's just be real. You're far wiser.
I don't know about that.
Chronology be damned. You're a rock star. So I'm excited to talk, but would you just say hi? And I know I'm just totally throwing you at the microphone, but you know who you are. And then tell me about being that more sensitive person as well. Would you just talk a minute about that? And then let's just start delving into our usual conversations, which are always meaty and good and crazy.
Yeah. Always. And they always take us into a direction that surprises us too.
Every time.
Yeah. Well, hello, I'm Kim. I think I want to start by saying that your introduction of me, the way you introduced me, was really humbling and really sweet and really opened my heart. And it made me realize that the way that we perceive ourselves is often so different than how others perceive us. And I was just like, wow, like this chick you're describing sounds really cool. And like, oh, that's how you see me. That's so sweet. That's amazing. And I really feel the same way about you. Like you're someone who really inspires me. I mean, just walking up here today and seeing you just chatting with this guy, and you just make instant best friends with everyone. And I really admire that about you.
Thanks.
And yeah, I find it very inspiring because I could be a little introverted. So I'm just like, oh, how cool. Like, look at Jen doing that again, just being best friends with everyone. That's so cool. Yeah. So I identify as a highly sensitive person. There's a book written on it, which is why that's a phrase. And I kind of discovered that in high school. I discovered the book, and it was one of those moments where I read this book and I felt like, oh my gosh, I'm not insane. This totally explains who I am. This explains why I feel the way I feel, why I think the way I think, why I get drained when I'm, hanging out in parties, even though I love people and adore people. Like it was very cool. There's a few books out there that are, one is The Highly Sensitive Person, and then another one is called Quiet
by Susan Cain.
Yeah.
I was going to ask you, so is highly sensitive synonymous with introspective, introverted?
No.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Explain the difference.
Yeah. So I think we're all kind of on a spectrum of introverted, extroverted.
Okay.
But highly sensitive person is basically someone who's very sensitive to sensory input. That could be the feelings of others. That could be loud noises. That could be like for me, when I was a little kid and today, like you will only ever see me in super soft clothes and like shorts when it's raining.
Yeah.
Because that's like, I need to be comfortable, and my sheets are like super soft, and I need to sleep in like silence and darkness. My boyfriend will tell you this. I need it to be like pitch black and silent for me to be able to fall asleep. So I'm just very sensitive to input. Yeah. And I'm also very sensitive to people's feelings. So that's kind of where a highly sensitive person tends to lean towards empathic. And of course, we're all to varying degrees sensitive to other people's feelings and emotions and facial expressions. Like we're human beings, we're social beings, we're designed to be sensitive to other people. But yeah, when you're a highly sensitive person, it's kind of in the name, highly sensitive.
Yeah.
And those people do tend to need a lot of recharge time alone, simply because for me, I feel when I'm out and about or around people, like I just feel everything. And I've definitely learned lots and lots of techniques and practice a lot to keep myself grounded and my energy kind of lovingly protected, so I don't get drained as easily when I'm out around people. But still, I definitely need a lot of recharge time alone, which I guess is kind of the introvert definition as far as I know it.
Okay. So wait, can I ask a question about, do you mean if you walk into a room, do you take on their energy and it's exhausting? So let's say you walk into a room and somebody's highly tense or they're really sad. Are you saying that you sense from a sensory perspective, pick up on it and then carry it, and that's overwhelming? I want to make sure I understand that.
Such a good question. So
like, how does it feel for you? Because it's probably different too. Everybody's slightly different, even. So this doesn't paint the picture for every person who's highly sensitive.
Exactly. And I think a lot of it for me, like the difference between me being able to walk into because I love going to concerts, right? We'll take that example of like an extreme example of people being loud and drunk and having fun and getting into fights and all of the chaos that happens when you go to a concert.
All of the goodness of a mosh pit.
Exactly. Yeah. So if I'm in a mental space where I'm really rooted in self-love and acceptance, it's way easier for me to not take on everybody around me. But like when I was a lot younger and I kind of had lower self-esteem and had a lot of issues around that, it made it so that I was like the sponge for everybody's stuff around me. Yeah. And I think that it was more a little bit of my codependency that had me be extra drained in social situations. So not only was I highly sensitive and I could feel everyone, but my inability to have healthy boundaries and self-love made it so that I soaked up everybody's stuff like a sponge.
Oh my gosh. And then probably tried to help them or fix them.
Yeah.
Was that part of it too?
Oh yeah. So my ability to really do that deep healing and that self-love work, which is like really profound stuff to embark on.
Yes.
That has actually inadvertently made my boundaries way, way better. And now I have a way easier time being around people. It's a trip. It's a multi-layered situation for sure.
Okay. Can I just say right here, I hear the word self-love and this is new for me. I mean, I don't even know what planet I've been on. Serious. I think it's because and it's not because I was raised by barbarians or something.
Yeah.
I would hear the term self-love and think, oh God, that's so hippy dippy. What, you know what I mean?
Yep, totally.
And that's so self-indulgent. And I was very much that, lacking in boundaries, total codependent. I'm card carrying for sure. I've just learned that this year too.
Oh, really?
Oh yeah.
Wow. I didn't know that.
This last 2 years has been a real trip.
Yeah. Wow.
And so I did feel that it was my responsibility to fix and save everyone, and that I was just that indispensable, and that that was the righteous, good thing to do. Self-love would be self-centered.
Yes.
Wrong. I've really had to do a great undoing there to understand that that is not accurate, and that taking care of oneself, protecting oneself, loving oneself. I still have a hard time saying it even right now. Isn't that strange?
Yeah.
But it's a process. Right? Totally. So I just want to acknowledge right here, even that is something I need to hear more of, because it's foreign to me. It is a new, this whole idea of body, soul, mind, I learned honestly in the last few months, because I had that whole drowning incident. Remember that whole thing? Okay. So I gave a talk on this yesterday.
Oh, cool.
And I basically talked about the fact that, so for those of you who don't know, I think a lot of you do if you followed me on Instagram, but in May, I was in Maui and I nearly drowned when I was in the ocean. And at the time, I remember just my mind, like I said at the beginning, my mind has run the show. I have always hit override when it comes to anything my body wants to tell me or my soul wants to tell me. My mind has always hit override and taken over, right? And so when I had this drowning incident, I really felt like it was my body and my soul that got me back into shore. My mind, my intellect were not going to save me that morning. And so I realized coming out of it that this drowning, this not being able to breathe, was this metaphor for not being able to breathe in this life I'd created. Wow. So once I took time to pay attention to that, and that this fulfilling life that I just meant full and filled, my mind went to work filling my life. Full and filled meant fill it with everything: meaningful relationships, meaningful work, perfect parenting, to-do lists that always demand to be checked off, right?
Yeah.
And so once I realized after this accident, because I actually was compromised, I had like a brain injury from the CO2 toxicity. And so I was forced to slow down because I couldn't even think. And in that, somehow that made me realize, oh, my body and my soul have input here too. My mind has been running this show. And so that has suddenly awakened me to, oh, I need to take care. It's like there's 3 people here. This person you see is a mind, a body, and a soul. And to neglect 2 of them because this one's a bully, the mind, is not cool. Do you know what I'm saying? Yeah. So this is totally front of mind right now, and it's kind of a bunny trail, but you guys all know I go on bunny trails constantly. This podcast is a literal rabbit trail of me going on segues. But does that make sense?
That makes perfect sense.
Okay. Have you always
so much within that?
Yeah.
That makes so much sense.
Have you always, how did you figure it out that you weren't weird, or, because you were sensitive, and you said as a kid, it was really hard to navigate.
Yeah.
But how, because I'm just starting to navigate it at 50, but it's worth it. And I'm going to continue to navigate it. And life is better understanding this about myself. Is how have you learned to weave and be sensitive to your soul, sensitive to your mind, sensitive to your body, right? Because if you're ultra sensitive, I would think in a way that strikes me as almost this amazing superpower once you get it.
Yeah.
And you're tuned into now 3 information sources that are providing you data.
Yes, it totally is. And it's like a kind of a blessing and a curse, as that expression goes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it's, oh man, your story is just so amazing with the drowning incident, because I feel like sometimes when we're not getting the lesson we're meant to learn this lifetime, divine intervention happens.
Yeah.
And we get very lovingly, sometimes not so gently, but I like to see it as lovingly kind of forced to look at the thing. And like you were in such a state that you were forced to be with your body and to rest. Like I remember when you were forced to rest and you were having a hard time with it. You were like, I have so many things to do. I need to do things. And I have all these
flipping out.
Yeah, totally. And it was like but you wouldn't have done that if your body wasn't forced. And I think a lot of the time, at least I've noticed this and read a lot of stories about it, of people who had kind of pivots or these big growth moments in their life, or whatever you want to call it. They had some kind of a tragedy or a physical accident, because sometimes we need to be like literally kind of slapped by God or the divine to be like, hey, sit, pay attention. Like I'm trying to teach you something and you're not paying attention. Like I'm going to force you to sit.
Yeah.
So I feel like these accidents or illnesses that happen can sometimes be like almost divine intervention, like forcing us to be with our body and to be with what is.
Yeah.
And to stop doing. And like you said, that the mind of the bully that is the mind. I love how you say that.
Yeah.
Because it totally takes over like a bully.
Oh, it does.
And it convinces us that it is right and that it is the best way and it is the righteous way. And, if you take a moment to take care of yourself, how dare you do that?
Yeah.
Like that's so the script of the mind and the ego that we all have. Like, how dare you be kind to yourself? How dare you,
yeah, you
not
selfish little blah, blah, blah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That script that goes. It's just, it's amazing.
It is. Have you ever had, okay, here's the thing though. Let's go back to the divine intervention there. And some people will say, does that mean God gives you cancer? Does that mean God gives you tragedy? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That could be a whole podcast.
Totally.
We could do a complete, like from the, like, let's use a Buddhist example. Okay. How would that be looked at from that perspective? Because I know you've studied that extensively.
Probably more from the perspective of cause and effect, or like how our mindset creates our reality. And if we're in this mode of control, trying to control everything, which is very much, mind-based, ego-based, trying to control and manage everything the way that we think it should be done.
Yep.
And we're doing that over and over and over. We're kind of slowly moving away from balance, like this natural balance and this ebb and flow and this yin and yang that is life. And when we get too far out of balance, that's when something tends to occur. Kind of like thinking about like what are those things? Like things that the kids play on, like a seesaw.
Oh, seesaw, like teeter-totter.
Yeah. So if one kid is, moving too close to the middle of the thing, eventually it's going to not function anymore, or it might even break. So I kind of look at it like it's not good or bad, or God teaching you a lesson, or even if you don't believe in God, like that's fine. I feel like the analogy still checks out, which is just, we kind of give what we get in life. And if we're out of balance and continue to be out of balance in one area, eventually the whole system gets out of balance and something will kind of like happen. So that's just when you get out of balance with life, that's kind of how it goes, I feel like.
Okay. That makes sense. So it's like, it's another opportunity. I feel like everything is constantly presenting opportunities, and many opportunities have been presented to me and I just hit override and ignored them.
Yeah.
So this was another opportunity. I don't think God tried to make me drown that day.
No.
I
would never
quite
say
clear
something
on
like that.
No, I didn't think so.
Yeah.
And same.
It doesn't feel good to me to even think about it that way.
No, I know, because that's not the God I understand. The God that resides here in my soul even is of love, and not here. Let's dunk you under the water a little longer than you would like. No, God, I know. That's okay. Okay. So back to, have you ever had one of those kind of key moments or experiences that you feel drew you to this new inner knowing or understanding?
I feel like, going off what you said, being human and having a human life, I feel like the whole thing is just a series of us being called to wake up.
Yeah.
And most of us ignore a lot of the signs a lot of the time.
Yeah.
But, the universe is very loving and patient. And we just keep plugging along until we decide to get it. And I mean, you could have chosen after you had your near drowning incident, you could have chosen to be like, you know what? No, like I'm going to let my mind win. I'm like, I can't trust my body. I'm going to hardcore get even more into letting my mind rule.
Yeah.
Like you could have done that.
Yeah.
That could have been a choice, but you decided to do something different. And that's where I feel like our free will comes in and can make things feel like they took forever for us to learn. But really, it's just this process of unfolding and us discovering new parts of ourselves and being ready to accept the challenge of growth. Because it's scary to do something different and it's scary to grow. That's very scary to the mind and the ego, fortunately or not.
Yeah.
And sometimes we have to have like a major crazy situation that'll really be like, okay, like I can't do this anymore. Like I have suffered enough that I'm willing to deal with the fear of losing control or face the fear of my ego to do this differently. And we usually, kind of hitting that wall gets us to do something different. And having a near drowning experience definitely sounds like something that would have you hit the wall, because that's terrifying.
Okay, let's take a quick break. We'll be right back. We're back. Okay, first of all, before we get back to this, I want to remind you all we're on Instagram. Where, what are you thinking about this? Do you relate to this? I was thinking about my kids. I was thinking about people I know. And there are probably so many of you that go, oh, yes, you're talking about me. Or no, I have no idea what you're talking about. But honestly, if you feel like it, jump in, talk to us on Instagram and tell us where you're coming from. We just love connecting with you. We want you in this conversation with us. Just because you're not in the room doesn't mean you're not here. My Instagram, you all know it, is Being Real Jen. And then Kim's is Dance Freedom Beauty. I love that Instagram handle. Dance Freedom Beauty. All three words just run together. So touch base with us. Let us know, we want that good fleshing out. I say it every time, and we do. Okay, so what came to mind when you were talking about being highly sensitive is the tags in the shirt. I remember this sweet boy who, when I was raising my daughter, a friend of mine in the playgroup had a son who was also probably highly, highly sensitive. And I remember that kid could not have a tag in his shirt. The way this car seat would fit him, I mean, this poor kid, you would have thought, oh, he's just a miserable, unhappy baby. And thank God he had this mom that was patient beyond reason. Her name was Britt. She's amazing. She's still an amazing mama. But it occurs to me, like, how many of us, and maybe you experience this, are made to feel like something's wrong, or God, we're disciplining the hell out of these poor kids, thinking they're just being difficult and unruly and dramatic.
Ugh,
oh,
that word.
God. Right?
Yeah.
And so will you talk a little more about that? Because for those of us who don't understand, I mean, I see it on a smaller, I think about it with my kids. My kids are both more introverted and introspective. And I was always this extrovert. And I, for the longest time, made them feel like something was wrong with them. Like, why aren't you out here partying with everybody? It's Christmas.
Yeah.
And they're like, Mom, I just want to be in my room and have some quiet. And I'd be like, don't be so antisocial, come and talk to your grandfather.
Are you depressed?
Or are you depressed? Yeah. Why are you being a loner?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, what? Oh, it makes me so sad. And I have repeatedly apologized to my kids going, I'm so sorry I didn't get it. And I made you feel you had to be like me, and that was how you were trying to recharge to even have the energy to be out there with this really loud, boisterous crowd, right? Where everyone's talking over each other. So awesome to see that. Ugh.
and apologize to your kids.
Yeah.
Like, that
Fully.
sounds like a very powerful healing moment for them.
Oh gosh, I hope so, because they're awesome. And I'm learning to embrace silence and solitude. And now I'm kind of in the middle now. I'm more of an ambivert now. I covet my quiet and my silence. Ambivert's in the middle.
Oh, that's what the word
So extrovert's
is.
the one end. Introvert, it's a spectrum, right?
Cool.
Is the other. And then we all kind of fall somewhere in between. Ambivert's kind of in the middle. I think that's a Susan Cain thing. I can't take credit for that.
Okay.
But anyway, will you just talk about that maybe as a child and as an adult, the things other people maybe don't understand, so we can be more compassionate and understanding with the people we're in relationship with, or the kids we're raising, right? Or to compassionate with ourselves, you know?
Totally. Oh my gosh, all of that. Yes. Because being, quote, different, first of all, we're all different. Like the way that you are existing right now, no one has ever existed exactly like you in your body with your personality. Like this has never happened before. And that's the case for every living thing on the planet at the moment. So first of all, we're all different. But I think being highly sensitive or highly empathic, it's not a problem. What turns into an issue is when we judge ourselves for it. When we receive the idea that it's not okay, that we should be ashamed of it. It becomes a problem when we don't have good personal boundaries. And it becomes a problem when we take everything that we're feeling personally. And this is something that all little kids do. I want to point that out. Like when we're very little kids, we are designed as little human beings to stay attached to our parents to survive. And we need to feel safe and okay to do that. We need to feel safe and secure. That's very important for a little kid to feel. So if they feel like they're getting judged for, being how they are, little kids will try to adjust their personality to not get judged and have that perceived rejection, because that rejection feeling from a parent can be synonymous with feeling like, oh my gosh, like they're going to abandon me and I'm going to die. And that sounds kind of dramatic, but it kind of is that extreme when you're a little kid and you're a little, mammal essentially trying to survive and stay attached to your caregiver. Like we're animals and we're designed to stay attached and feel safe and secure. And we do that by adjusting ourselves a lot of the time, especially about the age of 7. 7 is when we start to develop different structures of our brain that really allow us to be more introspective, really see things and people outside of us as different and distinct from us. But before 7, we really take a lot personally. Like if mom comes in home from work and she's, seems really agitated and is like, pick up your toys. It's like when we're a little kid, we aren't like, oh mom, like I get it. Like you had a really stressful boss. Right. Like I understand, you know what? I'm just going to take a drive and let you cool off and go do some self-care, no, like mom comes in, she's angry. We feel that. And she, kicks our toy and says, clean up your toys. Like we interpret that as, oh my gosh, I'm a terrible person. Like people won't love me if I don't, have everything really clean and make everything perfect all the time. Like we start to internalize these little things. And it's not because our parents are failing. It's not because they weren't good enough parents. Like, no, they're doing the best they can with what they have. And the way that our brains develop, we're designed to take stuff super personally and really globalize everything. So if mom comes in when we're 5 and makes that statement, not only do we take it personally, but we start to interpret the whole world as, the whole world isn't safe if I'm not perfect or whatever we make it mean about ourselves. But I just went off on a tangent and I forgot.
I love your tangents.
But the point is to have compassion for ourselves around this. Yeah. Oh yeah. And we're talking about highly sensitive kids.
Yeah.
Because I think a lot of us, like obviously having a very highly sensitive, highly empathic child, I can see how it could be extra, I don't know, maybe just a little bit extra for parents. Parents are doing what they're trying to do in the 21st century, trying to survive and have kids and a family while doing it. And they have their own stressors, and having a kid that's needing extra attention or, that really needs that alone time or needs something to calm down. And the parent feels like they don't have the capacity or the time to allow the kid to have that. Yeah. Like I can see how that would, kind of be a lot for a parent, maybe not, but it definitely, my mom always was telling me that I was constantly ripping off my clothes and running around because I couldn't stand being in clothes. and
That's
like
awesome.
the discomfort of it. And
That's awesome.
so it's, I mean, yeah. And I think there wasn't any education growing up, like there's no, like, you don't go
Your
to
mom just thought you were a
school.
budding nudist. She's just,
Which she wasn't totally wrong, because I was pretty much the same situation at Burning Man when I was like, 15 years.
I have
later,
the freedom to be naked.
Yeah.
And it's so acceptable.
Right.
It's
like finally the moment I've been waiting for.
That's awesome.
Yeah. But,
okay. Will you tell people what you do for a living? It just occurred to me. You're probably going, wait,
oh yeah.
How does Kim know all this stuff?
Yeah. So I just became a licensed, I'm a licensed therapist.
Yeah.
And I specialize in, like working with trauma, specialize in helping people heal their emotional trauma. I have a specialization in dance movement therapy because I love that.
Mm-hmm.
What else? Somatic psychology.
Yeah.
These terms.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I do like a lot of other stuff. I have a million certifications and all kinds of stuff, from like energy healing to Reiki to neuro-emotional technique to, massage therapy, a bunch of energy healing stuff that I can't even remember. It's been so long since I've gotten trained in it.
Yeah.
And medical Qigong therapy and all this really cool stuff.
Oh, I love that.
I love doing all this kind of healing work, because I feel like we all want to be our most optimal, free, at ease selves. And it's often very necessary to do some healing on our childhood, traumatic events to be able to really thrive today as adults, so that we're not running on these unconscious limiting beliefs that are kind of underneath the surface, hijacking our lives and our goals and stuff.
Totally. In fact, I think it's really important. Not every LMFT is like sensory oriented or sensitive.
Yeah.
So in a lot of ways, that clearly informs your practice, informs the modalities you use and have to offer to clients, because you are so in tune with the senses and the role they play. But there's plenty who will sit with you and it's talk and there's conversation, and that's the extent to which to what they offer. And that's completely fine too. But that's what I kind of love, is that you are constantly looking at this whole picture. And I don't see you as a therapist. I mean, I'm not one of your clients, but I believe in just knowing you in the conversations we've had. And because I've availed myself of plenty of therapeutic settings and measures, and that you must bring so much more to the table in a lot of ways, because you're keyed into that person, that sensitivity. And in a way, boy, you do have to protect your energy in a lot, because you have someone come in as a client, like we talked about earlier. You've got to have healthy boundaries. You've got to kind of not take on their pain. Right? That's super interesting to me. That
it's a lot. It's a big deal.
It is a big deal.
Like to go into a career, or just, be a good friend that's listening to your friend when they're ranting, whatever that looks like. It can be a lot to really hold that loving container for someone to just be everything that they are.
Yeah.
And I feel like it's so important to have really good boundaries and to be filled up with self-love, because like, to me, having a boundary, one of those boundaries is being filled up with as much self-acceptance and allowance as you can. Because when you're, have your container filled with this kindness and this compassion for yourself, you're not going to get as triggered by other people. You're not going to get as pissed at other people. You're not going to have a really difficult time seeing your own mirror when other people are talking. So I feel like having that's why self-kindness and self-compassion and like self-love, all those things are so important, because that in and of itself creates this incredibly powerful boundary.
So then what I just pictured was the opposite. When you have self-loathing, look at the pain and the what's that term? Victimize others, or the one I'm talking about, where they say someone who's a victim or has been victimized will, if not healed, in turn victimize others. So when there's a self-loathing or something, that's where people act out of that pain and do some of the most unkind things that we see.
Exactly.
I suddenly see those people with a more compassionate set of eyes to understand. It's like that Oprah book with Dr. Bruce Perry that just came out, and it's not what's wrong with you, it's what happened to you.
Yes.
right?
Mm-hmm.
That kind of reminds me of that as well.
Yeah. What happened to you that is still unresolved?
Right.
Yeah.
And so therefore it manifests in behavior A or behavior B or behavior C.
And pretty much entirely unconsciously, right?
Yeah.
Like most of the time, these behaviors that we have, the triggers that we have, they're coming from our subconscious mind. It's not your logical adult brain, you know, because that part of your brain is logically knows, I want to be nice to people and I want to accomplish this goal and do this with my finances. But if you have some unresolved beliefs or trauma, or however you want to say that, in your subconscious, that's going to wreak havoc, you know, in your present day life.
Yes.
You need to have that harmony with your subconscious and your conscious mind if you really want to feel the way you want to feel, you know, create the life you want to create, at least to the best of our ability to do that.
Oh my gosh. So that reminds me, and don't let me forget, because there's something else I want to mention here is when you keep saying, I need to develop self-love, I need to cultivate self-love, I'm thinking, well, what does that look like? Like, what are your daily practices? If I said I want to get fit, I have daily practices, right?
Yeah.
There's daily practices to loving oneself and to developing that wellspring of self-love that you referred to that is kind of undergirding you so that those things don't impact you with such a great degree, but really fast before it. So don't let me forget that. Okay. But the other thing I just remembered was a long time ago, I was with a therapist and he was telling me about how we were talking about somebody in my life and myself. And he said, look, the trauma that person experienced at a young age, they're still acting out of that. It's like they experienced something so traumatic and such a grief that it's almost like their emotional development stopped there.
Yeah.
And so I said, I feel like I'm dealing with an 8-year-old. He goes, because you are. Yeah. He's like, you are.
Yeah.
They're literally feeling backed into a corner and that 8-year-old that's wounded comes out.
Totally.
Oh my gosh.
And we do the same thing. Like you might be totally triggered and all of a sudden feel really insecure and weird. And it's because you're in your little 6-year-old self that, you know, mom came home and she kicked your toy and told you you're always messy, you know, and I feel like it's so important to note too, that a lot of these things that impact our personality and our perception of reality, they're not these huge traumas all the time. Like you could have had awesome, fantastic parents.
Yeah.
But, you know, I mean, we, like I said earlier, the way our brains develop, we take stuff really personally as little kids. And we could have interpreted mom's anger or mom's grief, you know, and her pulling away from us because maybe her mom died and she pulled away from us for a little bit. We still interpret that as there's something wrong with me. I'm not worthy of love. So like, I feel like it's very important to say, you know, we're not saying our parents, you know, were mean and traumatizing us. Like, it's not that.
They were just going through their life.
Yeah.
Doing the best they could.
Yeah. And a lot of us, you know, a lot of people would say they, you know, I have really great parents. I don't understand why I sabotage all my romantic relationships, but it could be those little moments. And again, a lot of these you're not even consciously aware of.
Yeah.
Like they're just, and that's why I love the neuro-emotional technique that I started getting trained in more recently, because it goes into the subconscious mind and accesses what exactly happened, what age you were, you know, who was it with, and it always surprises us. Like in these workshops I've done, it's 99% of the time very surprising. We're like, oh my gosh, like that thing that happened to me when I was 4 is the reason why I'm terrified of commitment today, you know, or whatever it is. And that's not always just one event, that simple, but a lot of the time this stuff is in the subconscious. So it's not even something we could logically come up with. And that's why it can be so tricky to do this kind of healing work. Yeah. Because the issues are in the tissues and also in the subconscious mind. So it can be, you know, kind of difficult to pinpoint them.
We have to do another podcast on that alone, the energy and the tissues. Okay, guys, do you even understand how crazy this is? And I still don't get it. Okay, I just don't. But I don't get how my damn cell phone works either. And I use it every day and it does. I talk to my sister across the world and in real time, I hear her voice and how those packets of data travel across time and space. Exactly. I can't explain it, but I'm telling you, clearly we all know it works, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So this same concept of, what did you call it?
Neuro-emotional technique.
Yeah. And the idea, if I understand it, and this is the complete layperson trying very hard to sound cool, And like she knows what the F she's talking about. Okay. Is that you experience things and then it's almost like they get embedded in your body, your tissues, right?
Yep.
So let's say a trauma when you're 50, when you're 7, when you're whatever, right? And then someone like you comes along who understands this technique and works with you and is somehow able to, I picture it like dislodging it from where it's like you've got this stuck point in your physical body. Cause that's the thing. We all think trauma is this mental thing, but it actually is physical. Like it manifests physically in our bodies and right. And we get like stuck points.
Yeah. I mean, in terms of Eastern medicine, they would literally say, yes, it's stuck in your spleen, or like traditional Chinese medicine has talked about this for 2,500 years or however long it's existed.
Exactly.
But also Western science is showing now, because all these books have come out by Peter Levine and Bruce Lipton showing like, hey, trauma gets literally stuck in your physical cells and tissues. So
it's all crazy.
It's insane. And now Western science is starting to show, kind of prove in different ways. Oh my gosh, like they were right. Like it gets embedded in our physiology, essentially, like you said.
Can you free someone of it? But they are a part of that. Like, does that even make sense? That doesn't make sense. Sorry.
Like the
take
process
2. That made no sense.
I think I know where you're getting, but let's do a take 2.
And okay. So what does that mean? Like, how do you dislodge it?
Yeah. So, okay. So I remember, forgive me for not being able to quote who came up with this, but I think
it wasn't you.
It was not me. Science people who did experiments and they got verified by other science people and those got verified.
Peer reviewed. Yes, it's real.
Yeah. Real science. Google it. Just kidding. Don't Google it. Look on the actual articles. But anyway, so the idea that, okay, we have a feeling, right? An emotion like anger or sadness or grief or whatever.
Okay.
So a good way to look at this is kind of from the perspective of a kid. So let's imagine I used to babysit, so I can totally see this play out.
Okay.
So we're going to the park.
Okay.
And I have a brother and a sister. We're going to the park.
Okay.
They go to the park. Older brother is throwing Tambark at sister. And I'm like, oh boy, this is bad. First of all, why do they have Tambark at play?
I've never understood.
First of all, it blows my mind. But anyway, and I'm like, this is going to get bad. And I'm like, hey, you guys, you can't throw Tambark at each other. That's very dangerous. They don't listen to me. So eventually little sister throws Tambark at big brother. He gets some in his eye. He starts to cry and scream. He's very pissed. He's very upset. He's very mad at his little sister. He's very hurt in his eyeball. So that emotion, when a thing occurs and an emotional response happens, for a little kid, because it's easier for them to feel stuff typically, an emotion typically lasts about 90 seconds. Like if you can allow yourself to feel it and just surrender to that shit, it will last about 90 seconds. Typically speaking, that's not for every emotion every time, but for the more acute stuff, right? It's typically, if you allow yourself to really feel it in that moment, it's about 90 seconds of a lifetime.
Okay.
And then they're over it. So we can really see this with kids. Like if you've ever, because you have kids.
Yeah.
And like they freak out like the world is ending, crying and screaming and losing their mind. And then maybe 90 seconds later, they're kind of chill. Or they're like, oh, okay, I'm over that. I'm playing with my teddy bear now.
Yeah.
Like it can be pretty quick for little kids.
Yeah.
And it's easier to see that process with them because they don't have the ability to really suppress their feelings like adults do or like teenagers do.
Yeah.
So when we allow ourselves to really feel, it only takes about 90 seconds. But the issue occurs when something happens and we don't allow ourselves to complete that feeling process.
Oh my gosh.
And a lot of the time this occurs when we interpret that we should be ashamed of what we're feeling, or we should be ashamed of what we've done. And of course, I mean, unfortunately in our society, and especially like back in history, you can really see it. Like there's a lot of shaming going on of people shaming, people for what they're feeling, what they're doing, who they are. There's a lot of shame going on. So shame is one of those things that totally blocks an emotion from being able to complete its cycle. So that is when I kind of think of that as one of the ways that emotions can get, quote, stuck in our physiology or the body, because we just don't let ourselves complete it.
Yeah.
Like if we could let ourselves feel the feeling and not judge ourselves about it,
it just works its way out.
Yeah. And not make a whole bunch of meaning out of it. Because that's where feelings can get really trapped and stuck and entangled, is when we're like, oh my gosh, I felt anger and then I yelled and that had a consequence that, I don't like. And now I'm a terrible person for being angry. Like good girls don't get angry. I can never be angry. When we make a story about the feeling, that makes it stuck.
Okay. So
that was a lot.
No, this is so huge. And I wish every parent before birthing could know this. Imagine the world would be a different place if we just knew this as parents. 90 seconds, dude, write it out.
Yeah.
Let them express it and but here's what we do. And this is not original to me, but I did this as a parent. So many of us did this. I heard this just on one of my favorite podcasts, We Can Do Hard Things. It's Glennon Doyle's podcast.
Oh, cool.
It's ridiculous. It's so good. And they talked about what happens when something happens with a kid, like that situation you just painted. We as the adult come over and go, you're okay. You're okay. You're okay. You're fine. You're fine. And immediately, instead of just kind of letting them experience what they're experiencing, like his eye hurts. There's wood in his eye. It hurts, right? Yeah. He's totally pissed
you feel
at his
that
sister.
way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or just let them get through it.
Yeah.
But we always want to, I don't know if it makes us feel better. I did this to my kids. Or it's like, you're fine. Okay. It's okay.
Yeah.
I would almost condescend to go, is this really a big deal? You're making it such a big deal.
Oh, I can feel my inner child can feel that.
Right.
Like feeling condescension.
Right.
And that word is. Yeah. Which is, it's kind of like shame, or it's basically saying you don't matter. Your feelings don't matter.
Right.
And that will,
totally
what
a shitty
shut
thing
down
to say.
your feeling. Yeah. And it's not like you're thinking you want to hurt your kid.
I was thinking, let's hurry up and just bring it into perspective and calm it down.
Because you're an adult, most of it is see that bigger perspective.
And so see it. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So if we just give them that chance to go, oh man, that must have really frustrated you. I'm so sorry. That hurts. Okay, I'm here with you. Let's get through this or whatever, right?
Yeah.
But oh my gosh, I mean, it's so simple.
Yeah.
To just what it is it's validating that little human and their experience right then.
Exactly.
But I think as a parent, so I can only speak for me, I thought maybe I was coddling them to then be, I don't know, more dramatic or more self-absorbed. And it's like, and we have this culturally, it's like toughen up, be rugged, be strong, be hardy, don't cry.
Well, I'm really glad you're saying that, because that could be another side of the spectrum. Like if we had a parent who really indulged us when we got dramatic, that could teach us, I only get love and affection when I'm crying. And then like when we're indulging feelings from a place of that fear or that sense of lack, that's another way that feelings get stuck.
Oh my God.
It's just like a different side of the spectrum. Yeah. It's like you said, it's very simple, but it's really tricky. Like it's definitely a skill that, and we aren't taught this in school, which I think is incredibly unfortunate.
There should be a parenting class around this topic.
I agree.
Oh how to validate your child, but not coddle them, and also reward the drama, or as I label it, drama.
Yeah.
And teach them that that's the way. Oh my gosh, I have a friend that's right now, she's dealing with that with her adult child. And the adult child only knows how to be sick.
Yes, totally. Yep. I think I did a little bit of that. Yeah. Because if we learn subconsciously, I get connection with mom, or dad loves me or shows me attention when I'm sick.
Yeah.
What are we going to do? We're going to recreate what we feel like we need to keep that attachment to our caregiver. And it's nobody's fault.
No,
like we're not bad or wrong. It's nobody's fault. It's our biology and how we're designed. It's so important to have compassion for everyone.
Oh my gosh, in this situation, including ourselves,
probably even especially ourselves.
Yeah.
Because that's tend to where we lack the most in compassion.
Well, and that's my whole reason for having these conversations. And I'm so glad you're just this willing participant. And, when we tell our stories and give our lived experiences and share like some of our tough stuff, we give the other person a chance to develop a broader perspective and understanding that wellspring of wisdom, compassion, empathy, all that comes as a result. If I didn't have conversations like this with you or others, I would have never known this, to be more compassionate to my kids, to apologize to them, go, I am so sorry I did that. And to inform them that I see that now. I can't go back and change how I was as a parent. My kids are 23 and 17 now, but I can, at least from this point forward, be that listener and be that safe place for them to land. Right. And, encourage them and own my part in what was hard.
That's beautiful.
That's all we can do. Right. And then there's people listening who are about to raise kids, have kids in their lives right now. And they go, oh, okay. I look at this with a whole new lens because they heard this. So, I mean, that's our goal, right? Out of that damn echo chamber that keeps us stuck in, well, this is my way. This is the only way,
Totally. Yeah. And I'm not sure if you've seen it from this perspective, but you being like a grown woman and going back to your, adult and teenage kid and being like, hey, like I did some introspection and I realized I wish I would have treated you better. I wish I would have done this better. And I'm sorry. Like, not only is that such a healing moment to give your children, but you're also modeling to them, this is what a kind, compassionate adult can look like.
Yeah.
Like if you're giving them that example of showing them like in real time, experientially, with all your vulnerability, like it's safe to admit, you made mistakes. It's okay to apologize. It's, good and okay to grow and introspect. Like you're modeling that for them too, which is an incredibly powerful thing, because we're all going to, F up or whatever, like
daily.
Yeah.
Daily.
That's just, we're all fumbling around trying to figure out how to be human, and for you to model that to them, of that introspection and that kindness to them, like that's a massive gift.
Oh, thank you for that.
Yeah.
Thank you for being here. We're going to record more. We've got to record more podcasts because there's just so much to cover.
Yeah, there is.
But I love who you are. I love the way you think. I love the way you make me think.
Oh, thank you.
And the way you make me feel, because I do plenty of thinking. My mind overthinks.
Yeah.
And in fact, does too much thinking. And I want to do more feeling and paying attention to that.
Yeah.
And just growing that level of sensitivity in me. And I'm learning that from you. And I just so appreciate you.
That's such an honor. Thank you,
my friend.
Yeah, I really appreciate you too.
Y'all, we're going to be back. See you next week. Join us. Contact us. Get with us on Instagram. Would you please just tell us hi? Let us know that this was somehow an awakening, or I don't care. Maybe you think it's total BS. That's completely cool too, right?
Totally.
We can handle that.
Yep. Absolutely.
All right. See you all next week.
Bye.
Bye.
The Listen for Real podcast is recorded in Rockland, California, and is edited by Jamie Hill and Christian Oliver. Our theme music is Zero by the amazing Shannon Curtis. Don't forget to subscribe, and we'll see you next episode.